My cheating ex stole a baby from a hospital, claiming it was mine, trying to trap me into marriage with her and her family's pressure. But I reported her when I discovered the truth. Many of you have probably seen the news on TV or read about it in the papers. It was a national scandal. I still can't believe my ex was capable of something so deranged, all to tie me down and force me to stay with her. Before I explain how it all ended, I need to start from the beginning or it won't make sense. A few months ago, I was in a 2-year relationship with Estella. We were living together, sharing expenses, and while there were no serious marriage plans, I did see her as someone I might build a future with. But I discovered her true colors in the worst way possible, with my own eyes. One day after work, I got a message from her asking me to bring some candies. It wasn't unusual. She often asked for small things when I left the office. But the message felt off, not like her usual tone. Still, I stopped by a store and bought what she asked for. I didn't reply because I read it quickly and was already heading to her place. When I arrived and opened the door, I called out that I'd brought what she wanted. Then I saw her come out of the bedroom, disheveled, eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. My first thought was that I'd interrupted something. She was nervously trying to close the bedroom door, asking me to wait a moment. Anger took over. I pushed past her, opened the door, and saw a half-naked guy in his underwear jumping out the window to escape. I could barely believe it. I stood there, holding the bag of candies, while Estella stammered explanations. The worst was what she said next. She'd sent the message to me by mistake. It was meant for him. She'd met him recently, found him attractive, and acted on impulse. She literally said she dissociated and ended up in bed with him, then begged for forgiveness, claiming it was a mistake and she was confused. I had nothing left to say. I kicked her out of the house without a second thought and ended the relationship on the spot. She cried, promised to change, but I was done listening. That was enough. I told her to pack her things and leave. That night, she moved to her family's home in another state. I tried to rebuild my life, telling my family the basics, that we'd broken up, without sharing that I'd seen a guy escaping through the window. They didn't need those details. They accepted my decision, asked a few questions, but it didn't escalate. For nearly 5 months, I had peace, thinking that chapter was closed. But everything changed when Estella showed up at my door again, holding a baby. I was speechless, frozen. I could barely process her claim that the baby was mine. I looked at her, incredulous. It didn't add up. Doing the math, it wasn't possible. Only 5 months had passed since our breakup, and when she left, she showed no signs of pregnancy. I told her immediately that the baby couldn't be mine. She insisted, swearing she was already pregnant before leaving and hadn't told me out of fear. My only response was that I wanted a paternity test. She agreed calmly, as if confident the test would prove her right. The next day, she showed up with reinforcements, my family and hers, all at my door, demanding explanations, talking as if they were already planning a wedding. They kept saying I had to marry her, that the child needed a father and mother together, that it couldn't grow up with the scandal of us being apart. They even discussed dates, guests, and ceremony details. I was stunned. I shut them down, stating clearly that I wasn't getting married and wouldn't accept anything until a paternity test was done. Their reaction was immediate: shock, accusations of shame, claims I was heartless for doubting a woman who'd just given birth. Estella's mother called me cruel, and my own father said I was tarnishing the family's honor. I couldn't understand it. When Estella left, she didn't look pregnant, and though I'm no expert, something felt wrong. My family, fearing gossip, pressured me to accept the role of father and husband, even threatening to disown and cut me off if I refused. I can't describe what it's like to hear that from your own family, but I didn't back down. I told them if the child was mine, I'd take responsibility as a father, but I'd never marry Estella. Never. The atmosphere became unbearable: shouts, accusations, my parents' disappointed looks, Estella's crocodile tears with the baby in her arms. I felt trapped, like they were cornering me with no way out, but I stood my ground. From there, a silent war began. Estella's family called, texted, and showed up at my workplace to pressure me. My own family kept saying I had to do the right thing. But I kept thinking about the timeline, the logic, what I'd seen months earlier. Something wasn't right. Amid the family chaos, arguments, veiled insults, and pressure to marry Estella, a national news story broke, interrupting regular TV programming with an urgent alert. A woman posing as a nurse had stolen a newborn from a hospital in the city where Estella had been living. The report was chilling. The woman, disguised in a uniform with a mask and cap, waited for a moment when nurses were distracted, took the baby, and left calmly. By the time the parents noticed, it was too late. Security cameras didn't clearly show her face. The baby had a distinctive birthmark on its chest, and authorities urged the public to stay vigilant, as any information could help find him. The news showed the parents pleading, crying, begging for their son's return. I froze. The city was where Estella had been, and the baby she showed me didn't fit the timeline or circumstances. That birthmark haunted me. I told myself it couldn't be. Estella might have cheated, lied, but stealing a baby? That was too much. Was she capable of that? The doubt consumed me. I had to confirm my suspicions, though I dreaded being right. I confronted Estella's family, asking about her pregnancy, if they'd been present, if they knew where she gave birth. Their answers raised more red flags. They said she'd lived alone during her supposed pregnancy, never invited them to doctor visits, and shared no ultrasounds or photos. Most suspiciously, they hadn't been at the hospital when she gave birth. She just showed up one day with the baby, claiming she'd delivered. They accepted it, assuming she was ashamed of being pregnant without a husband. But I couldn't buy it. How could an entire pregnancy happen alone, without her family's involvement? It was too suspicious. I decided I needed to see the baby up close. I called Estella, asking her to come to my apartment, saying I wanted to spend time with the baby to get used to the idea. She was thrilled, thinking I was giving in. When she arrived, I acted calm, though I was battling myself inside. I wanted to see that birthmark from the news. She was cautious, holding the baby tightly, avoiding letting me touch him or open his clothes. Then she said she needed the bathroom and asked me to hold him. That was my chance. With trembling hands, I opened his clothes and saw it. A dark birthmark on his chest, exactly as described on the news. My world collapsed. I couldn't breathe, the room felt smaller. I was holding the baby the entire country was searching for. Then I noticed another detail: Estella never breastfed him. In the time she was there, she always prepared a bottle. When I asked why she didn't breastfeed, she gave a flimsy excuse. The doctor said she wasn't producing milk and didn't have proper nipples. It sounded absurd, like she'd made it up on the spot, confirming my suspicions. When she returned, I acted normal, saying I needed time to think. She seemed relaxed, believing I was softening. But as soon as she left, I called the police. I couldn't stay silent. I told them I had a suspect, that I'd seen the baby with the described birthmark, and that the woman had recently returned from the city where the kidnapping occurred. Surprisingly, they took me seriously, saying they needed to verify. I knew if I went to Estella's family, they wouldn't believe me, and when I tried telling mine, it was worse. They were furious, accusing me of making cruel excuses to avoid responsibility, calling me a heartless monster for accusing an innocent woman just to dodge marriage. Estella's family said the same. You're trying to wash your hands of this? You can't accept your mistake, so you accuse her of being a thief? It hurt, but I wouldn't stop. I proposed a plan to the police. I'd bring Estella and the baby to my apartment so they could intervene without raising suspicion. They agreed. The next day, I called Estella, saying I wanted to see her and the baby again, that I was seriously considering accepting the situation. She fell for it, believing her pressure was working. When she arrived, smiling confidently with the baby in her arms, I stayed calm, though I'd already alerted the police. Minutes later they knocked. Estella tensed when she saw the officers, who politely asked to check the baby. It was like a punch to her face. She panicked, yelling that they were intimidating her, that they couldn't do this to a woman with a baby. She cried, clung to the child, and refused to let go. The officers stayed firm, explaining there was an open investigation and they needed to verify the child's identity. She resisted, holding the baby tightly, but they eventually took him to examine him. I stood silently watching it unfold, part of me hoping I was wrong, that I'd look like an overreacting fool. But deep down I knew I was right. The DNA results left no doubt. The baby Estella claimed was mine was the one stolen from the hospital. The police quickly made the news public due to the case's sensitivity. Within hours it was everywhere: stolen baby recovered, suspect arrested. I vividly remember the moment they officially arrested her. Amid a media frenzy, with TV cameras and reporters present due to the case's national attention, Estella screamed, cried, and denied everything as they put her in the patrol car. Her family was there, some calling it an injustice, others saying it was a misunderstanding. During interrogations, her explanations grew more absurd. She admitted she did it to keep me, terrified I'd leave her forever, thinking a baby would make me marry her. She confessed she was never pregnant. It was all a lie. In her twisted mind, she'd planned that if I accepted the baby, everything else would fall into place. I couldn't believe what I heard when the police relayed this. She'd spent months crafting this deception, faking a pregnancy, lying to her family, hiding her whereabouts, and ultimately stealing a baby to trap me into marriage. It was as if she could never accept our breakup. The trial became a media spectacle, broadcast on news and talk shows. Reporters dissected every detail: how she planned the theft, evaded hospital security, and escaped with the baby. Social media was divided. Some called her crazy in love, others a ruthless criminal. To me, she was both. I had to testify multiple times, explaining how I noticed the birthmark, my initial suspicions, and how I reported her despite my family's opposition. The media portrayed me as a brave citizen who didn't let manipulation sway him. For a few days, I felt like a hero, receiving supportive messages from strangers thanking me for speaking up. The sentence was severe: aggravated kidnapping, identity theft, and document forgery, with several years in prison and little chance of early release. Estella's family was devastated. During the trial, some still defended her, claiming she acted out of love or desperation. But when the full details emerged, how she deceived everyone and endangered a child, they couldn't keep up the pretense. They gradually faded from public view, stopping all contact with me, likely out of shame. My own family had to face their mistake after accusing me, pressuring me to marry, and threatening to disown me. When the truth came out, they apologized, some directly, others with half-hearted, "We didn't know, we thought it was best for you." But the damage was done. I listened but inwardly dismissed them. I'm still angry they didn't believe me when I needed their support, siding with a woman who was clearly hiding something. The baby's family, however, was a light in the darkness. They approached me, thanking me from the heart, saying my courage and decision to report Estella brought their son back. It was an emotional moment. Seeing those parents embrace their child, crying with joy, I felt part of that happiness. For a moment, I truly felt like a hero. Still, I'm confused. I can't fathom what went through Estella's mind. Did she really think she could force me to marry her with a stolen baby? How did she plan to sustain the lie? Would she have faked a paternity test? Those questions torment me. I don't know how far she was willing to go to keep me. What I do know is that this marked me. I learned trusting my instincts saved me. If I'd given in to my family's pressure or accepted marriage without questioning, my life would be ruined, tied to someone capable of the worst, bearing a crime I didn't commit. The case was so high profile that occasionally, someone recognizes me on the street, asking if I'm the one who found the stolen baby. Some congratulate me, others look curious. I don't regret doubting or questioning what seemed obvious to everyone else. That doubt saved my life and returned a child to his parents. So, guys, my takeaway is this: trust your instincts. Don't let pressure from family or society force you to accept what you know is wrong. The truth can be uncomfortable, but it always comes to light.